Morning, this is a reflection for Tuesday the 31st of August 2021. Passage entitled Jesus Heals a Blind Man at Bethsaida. They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home, saying, "Don't even go into the village." On the website that I was using to source the passage I've just read to you, it's also noticed that it also noted that in some manuscripts the translation read, "Don't even go and tell anyone in the village." So this is a very short passage to reflect on, only 5 verses in total, and it gives us a chance to look quite closely at all the content. When I did that, you see that in the first part of the story, we see that Jesus is in a village in Bethsaida. He is in there when a blind man is brought to him by the people. At first, one thinks of the faith that may have caused these people to present the man to Jesus, to God. Word was no doubt spreading now about Jesus as he travelled around, and word may have reached this village before even Jesus had done. If though the people had brought the man to Jesus as a result of their faith in him, then I can't see why Jesus would not heal him there and then, heal him in the presence of his friends, of his colleagues, in that way upholding and justifying their faith, the faith that they had shown in bringing him to Jesus. And that's what we see in many other Bible stories. In this story, we're told Jesus took the man by the hand and took him outside the village. Makes me think that these people had actually presented the man to Jesus in bad faith, perhaps as a test, that they were testing him to see if he was really the prophet that they'd heard about, that they doubted who he really was or wanted to trap him. And that would certainly explain why Jesus avoided them, I think. Perhaps he sensed that trap. Perhaps he saw that in their hearts these people were not ready to receive him as Messiah, as God. Whatever the reason, I think the fact that Jesus took the man away and then told him, the man, not to go back, not to tell anyone, shows us that Jesus was not prepared to play these games, not prepared to allow himself to be tested, that there was something he wanted to avoid about these people. The fact that doubting their motives, Jesus nevertheless healed the man, shows us, though, once again, Jesus' compassion. His compassion for the suffering of that blind man. It may be that Jesus was able also to discern that the blind man was not testing Jesus in the same way as his friends. Perhaps he was simply a pawn in the action. I think we can see in the instruction that Jesus gave at the end, not to go and tell, that Jesus did trust this man, and that is different from the others. I think he was able to see that that man had a true heart. And finally, we see that the healing took 2 attempts. I can't think of another example of Jesus completing a healing in stages in the Bible. It may be there is such a story, but I can't call it to mind. Certainly in most accounts, Jesus simply heals a person brought to his attention of their physical problem, often very quickly. Here, the story passed down to Mark was that the healing took 2 attempts, or at least 2 stages. First, the man's sight dramatically improved, but he could only see in shadows. Then, we are told after a second touch from Jesus, the man could see everything clearly. We can see that the man reacts positively when his sight doesn't instantly improve. He doesn't complain. In fact, he said, I can see people moving like trees. And there is a lesson there, I think, to be patient. We know that in life sometimes the way of Jesus, even with him at our side, is not easy. Sometimes God can act dramatically and quickly in answer to our prayers. At other times, like for this man on this occasion, God's intervention might take a little time or more than one step to find the solution. We have to be patient and alert to the different ways that problems that we bring to God might be resolved with his help. Often not the way we think, but another way. Ultimately, the story tells us, as it does in others, that God always has a solution to our problems. And to finish with a prayer. Dear Lord, help us to learn from this passage in Mark's Gospel, to come to you with our needs with open, thankful, honest hearts, to pray in confidence that you hear and answer prayer, but to wait with patience for a solution that may not be immediate and may not be what we expect, trusting always that the solution to our problems is always found in you. Amen.